Okay, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you. Some familiar faces. As I've said already, my name's Steve Collins. I'm the Net Zero Program Manager for Guildford, Chichester, and Portsmouth. And yeah, as you know, this evening we're just gathering just quickly to talk about this concept that we're introducing going forward of pioneer parishes. And really, just before I hand over to Martin, the reason we've been thinking about this is that looking forward to the next triennium, and how can we, as a diocesan team, best use our limited time, aware that there's quite a lot of parishes out there who are really sort of wanting to move forward in some big steps with their net zero work. Some have already taken some big steps already, and just sort of really thinking about how we can best add value to what you're doing. And it isn't just that us adding value, but it's how you can add value to each other's work as well. So really, it's sort of, how can we proceed together? How can we add value and learn together in terms of the way that we interact with maybe more consultants, with companies who might be coming in to do bigger installations, in a sense, sort of just spur each other on as we take this journey together. So that was a little bit in terms of the background that got us thinking about this whole concept, and then we began to sort of get a little bit more clarity, which you'll have already seen in some of the communications from Martin, and which he'll be explaining a little bit more this evening. So, Martin, do you want to
Thank,
take over from here?
thank you very much, Steve. It's nice to see everyone. My name's Martin Carr, and I think most of you probably already know me. I am the Net Zero Officer for Guildford Diocese, and while I'm talking, I'm just trying to get my presentation into gear. Let's start. Okay, great. So, Net Zero pioneers. Obviously, we're moving towards net zero with a goal of 2030, but with 200 individual churches in our diocese, that's quite challenging. And if we're working in isolation, again with limited amounts of support, it can be difficult to keep the journey going. So our idea was to bring together a group of churches who are enthusiastic and keen and want to move forward, and to offer the opportunity to be part of a group with support to achieve net zero within a limited timescale. In this case, a 2 year timescale. Um, uh, I've on that slide, there's my email address. I think most of you already have it, but in case you don't, it is there. So, what is the Pioneers program? It's a
Martin, can
Yeah.
I just ask you to just quickly check the waiting room, just that there's nobody in there? I've just seen a few people coming in, and I'm not sure I actually was able to let them in.
I hope, Steve, that I made you the co-host of the
Okay,
meeting.
I must have let them in then in that case. Although I
Um,
did click on it, I wasn't too sure. That's
I,
fine.
I can't see
Yeah,
anyone waiting at the moment.
good.
Um, I'll,
You
I'll,
go. You crack on.
I'll get emails of complaint after the webinar, I know. So what is the Pioneers Program? It's a 2 year partnership between parishes and the diocesan net zero team to resource and accelerate the transition to net zero in up to 20 churches. That's what we're saying we think we can manage the group to be, which in a way is quite a substantial number. But it means that, 20 churches can move together through the process of moving towards net zero, supporting each other, learning from each other, and with our support. Who can be a pioneer? So the criteria to become a pioneer, and of course, these are flexible, but we're hoping that the pioneers will already have shown commitment to environmental sustainability by being an eco-church and preferably having an eco-church award. In order to set out on the net zero journey, it's really important we know where we are. So it's good for the pioneers to all already be in possession of a recent energy audit, or indeed in the process of getting one. I know about half the parishes now in the diocese have been audited, and if you haven't been audited, it's still possible to book through us with 20% subsidy an audit with inspired efficiency. So that shouldn't be a barrier to anyone. We hope that all the participating churches will have EFT data, and this year 98% of our parishes replied to the EFT, so that's really positive. And we also are asking for parishes to have a nominated EcoLink. Again, that's a really simple thing if you don't already have an EcoLink, but the EcoLink is the sort of almost the bridge between the diocesan team and the parish, so we can get information about funding, about webinars, etc. to you. We want to target those who are the highest emitting parishes. We reckon that in the top 20% of emitters, 80% of the diocese or emissions from churches in the diocese come from those top emitting parishes. So ideally, we're looking for some of the larger churches, which are more active and have a larger carbon footprint to take part in the project. So one of the criteria is to be in the top 100-ish, and priority will be given to those who are in the top 30. Obviously, we'll see who applies to become a pioneer and make a judgment from there. And another important thing is not to be at risk at this stage of short-term closure or about to undergo major pastoral or structural change. We need to be in a quite a stable position in our churches so that we can move through this process with as little disruption as possible. What is the role of the Guildford Net Zero team? And primarily that in this project will be me. Well, the first thing we'll do together is to agree a net zero plan. So we'll take the things from the energy audit, insulation, draft proofing, whatever heating solution is most appropriate. Is it good to put solar panels on? Are there light bulbs still need changing? And we'll put those things into a plan that the PCC can approve so that we know where we're going in each case. Because we're working as a group, we'll be able to get quotes for the projects from trusted suppliers and external consultants. We can do that as a group. So rather than every parish needing to think, oh, I need to research some companies who will be able to do lighting for us or to do heating for us, we can probably get quotes across the group depending on what the needs are in each individual case. I'll be, updating the PCC so that the church is very well informed of the process of the Pioneer scheme. I can help the churches with your permissions. We've got quite a lot of expertise now in the team about what permissions are needed, local authority and faculty for various schemes. Obviously, it's still the responsibility of the church to get those, but we can certainly help with the process and the paperwork. There is funding available. One of the things was about net zero. People often say, "Well, it's very expensive." Well, the project certainly costs money, but there's funding out there, and the Church of England will have funding available from next year for some of the higher emitting parishes. So part of the role, my role, will be to help match funding to projects that you've got happening in your church. If Church of England funding isn't the most appropriate funding stream, then we look at other funders, Surrey County Council, Marshall's Charity, national grant-giving bodies, and so on. And so we'll put in place for each church an adequate fundraising plan to make sure that we can deliver the projects that we want to deliver. Another really positive thing on that is that we should be getting a regional fundraiser, which will be shared between Guildford and 5 other dioceses, and it'll be really great to have that person who will be able to support support fundraising for some of the projects we identify. And we'll place anything we do in terms of net zero within that broader context of EcoChurch, as indeed we always do. So what's your role as churches? Well, obviously, in some sense, the first thing you need to do is make a commitment. We want to get to net zero within the 2 year framework of the program, and we want to be a pioneer. It's good to have timely and responsive communication. So when we're talking about projects we're going to do, consultants or companies we're getting in to do quotes, we can actually have that good communication. We do need to apply for permissions for projects, as I've already said, faculty or local authority as needed. And then, I can help identify the funding streams, but obviously it will be partly the responsibility of churches to actually apply for the funding, and hopefully, fingers crossed, draw some of that in. So, oops, I think I've gone too far there. I need to go back one. So some churches might be thinking, well, net zero, yes, we do want to go there, but we've got very little resource. We don't have many volunteers, and we certainly don't have very much money. Well, yes, you can still be a pioneer, I think. I've said that for a small number of parishes, we can designate Pioneer Plus parishes where there can be additional support around permissions and fundraising, particularly perhaps if you're in an area of deprivation or social need. And we certainly don't expect the PCCs to do everything themselves or indeed pay for everything themselves. The purpose of the program is to get projects funding ready and then look for external funding which will help fund your projects. Contributions, of course, from the church are not unwelcome. So what is the time frame for the Pioneer project? Well, we'll hopefully by the end of this year, we're already into autumn, we'll identify who the group of churches is going to be, and sign a memorandum of understanding, which sets out the obligations on both sides. By the middle of next year, we hope that all the parishes will have a net zero plan, which is agreed, and we'll be starting to look to get projects in the plan ready and implemented. By the end of next year, we'll review progress and we'll be able to look at making a plan for the second year of the project. And then by the end of 2027, which might seem a long way away, but time passes quickly, we will hopefully have a group of either fully decarbonized parishes, or a clear route in place in which decarbonisation will happen. I know for some churches, for example, they've got quite new gas boilers, and we certainly don't want to be ripping them out too quickly. But we can do the consultancy, we can do the project plan, and we can say when the time is right, this is what's going to be able to happen in terms of a heating solution. To register your interest, you just need to navigate to the Microsoft form, which is on the screen. But all the information in this slideshow has mainly been sent out to you in the emails that I sent out last week. So go back to that document and my email, and you'll be able to find a link to the link to register. And of course, if you can't find it, just send me an email. Say, Martin, I can't find the link. Where is it? And I'll resend it to you. We're asking for potential applicants to register by the 31st of October so that we can decide who the group is going to be. And the application form asks you a few questions about the projects you've done so far, your commitment to EcoChurch, and so on. And so that's just to give us a flavour of what the parish are already doing, and your level of commitment, so that if we've got more applicants than we can take, we can kind of make good decisions. So, that is my short presentation. We now, I think, have time, and this is an important time actually for you to ask questions to Steve and myself, so that you've got clarity on what the project is.
Great. Any questions? If you want to put your hand up literally or through the icon.
I
Helen.
have a question. Philip
Oh,
Evans.
okay, go ahead, Philip. Yeah.
Philip Evans, St Mary Oatlands Church. I've just been assigned this by my vicar, who I think is also on this group, although I can't see his picture.
Ah,
Someone said we've had an audit, and so I don't know an awful lot, but I've read the audit. And someone said, oh, we need some double glazing in a certain area of the church to replace some single glazing. The process for doing that, if we become part of, if we're successful as a net zero pioneer, and I want this in to get this double glazing installed, do I understand that I go to Martin or yourself to get the name of a double glazing person? How does it work?
Well, I mean, I think that's exactly what we're hoping to achieve here, Philip. Because if you're left alone, it's often difficult, and you think, "Oh, I don't know who the double glazing company is." Whereas, I've got Steve, I've got Wendy Harris, the DAC secretary, my own knowledge of companies that are specializing in that area. So we can get the companies in, we can get quotes for you, we can look what funding is available, and then hopefully we can get the project done. Yeah, I did actually already visit your parish at Oatlands, had a great discussion with Mark, and I think you'd be an ideal pioneer because the projects are quite defined, quite discreet, and there was opportunity to bring in some funds for you. So
Yes.
yeah, does
So,
that answer your question?
so
yeah.
yes, it does. So I'll hold off until we've been confirmed as a net zero pioneer before doing anything further. Is that?
And I know, for example, you're still waiting to spend the 3K grant, which is
Yes.
ready to go. So we've got some funding we can almost kind of start with there. So
Oh, okay. Well, I'll drop you a note then
yeah.
about who are the double glazing guys.
Yeah.
Yes. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So I mean,
Second, sorry.
so just on that, so for example, there's several parishes out there already who've probably sort of taken the steps that you have. So
Right.
actually, we're in contact with them. We can say, who did you use? How did you find them?
Yes.
And then obviously, if you're interested in this, and we maybe find out two or three other parishes through the pioneers, we can't sort of buy, get negotiate on your behalf, but we can say, listen, there's three parishes here who want to go ahead with this. Can you give a quote to each of them, bearing in mind this is a block of
Yeah.
work? And it'll be interesting to see if they say, yeah, we'll give you a 10% discount or
Yeah.
20% discount. So that's the sort of idea in terms of the benefits.
Yeah.
Okay. So we come to you, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's getting the process right, I guess, in my mind. So the other thing, a silly question. I know I shouldn't ask it, but what does EFT stand for?
That's the energy footprint tool. So each year you register with the diocese the amount of gas and electricity that you've used.
Right.
That enables us to calculate your carbon footprint and monitor it as time goes on.
Yes.
Yeah, Philip, it's done through the parish return system. So there's a sort of window in the year when it's filled in, and Oatlands has been really, really good right back from several years ago. You were filling
I
it in.
I know our church. I think in our particular deanery, you came. I saw one of you, either Martin or Steve, with
I
a
think it was
lady
Martin. Oh,
came
Alison.
came to St James's Church in Weybridge,
Oh, yes, yes, I was at that one.
and
Yep.
and St Mary Oatlands was right at the top of the worst emitters of high energy usage.
Yeah. Again, this is not a badge of shame. It's because you're missionally active. Yeah. So,
Yes.
don't be ashamed about it. It's just the way it is. If you're going to be out there doing stuff, you're gonna be and using sort of, conventional heating systems, you're going to be producing carbon. It's not a badge of shame. So don't say the worst.
Yeah, the most net zero church is a closed church, but we don't want that.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, we don't want that. No.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Philip.
Sorry, I think it was Helen who had a question.
Yes, thank you. I've sort of got two. One of which is, I suppose you can never quite tell what's going to happen in your organisation, but I'm just thinking if you have quite a strong eco team, is that still enough to, I don't know. I mean, you'll be doing the judging on how big our footprint is, but our vicar is retiring at some point, and I'm not quite sure when, but we've got very keen eco people within the church.
We'll work with whatever the situation in the church is. If there's a vicar, obviously it's fantastic if the vicar is committed. But if you're in an interregnum, then we'll work with the Warden's Eco team and the PCC. It's really about the whole church owning the project,
Yeah.
not just one person.
Yeah.
So I'd be uncomfortable if you were the only person, Helen, in your parish that was keen on this. But I know that that's not true. I know that St. Martin's is it's very much a whole church commitment that you've made.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to
And
add something to that, I think it's really interesting. Every church is different, but sometimes, you get a parish and there's an interregnum and, virtually everything apart from, the essential stuff just stops. But then you get some others. Martin and I were at a church the other week where actually they almost sort of thrive in interregnum and and the church comes together and collectively owns stuff and really pushes it forward. And that's that's the situation. That's great.
Well,
Mhm.
there's a church on this call that got a gold award during a vacancy, and I think that's a testament to the team there.
well done them. Yeah, my husband used to be a statistician at Church House in Westminster, and he discovered this phenomenon, the interregnum bounce, where congregation numbers rose during interregnum. Anyway, that's a bit of an aside. And the other thing was, will there perhaps be any opportunities for us, for those, so us, that's very presumptuous of me, anyone who's chosen to be a pioneer church to meet and chat about what they're doing?
Yes, definitely. Go ahead, Martin.
There definitely will. This is a learning community as well as a getting things done community, and so there'll be the opportunity to share. I mean, we're not going to make it too frequent, but with the demonstrator churches, which is another strand of our work, we brought them together, and it was just wonderful that people were able to share and talk and think about the benefits of being part of the project, but also think about some of the challenges, because projects have challenges too, and learn from each other. Again, there's this sense of not being alone on the journey, but coming alongside others.
Thank you.
I think on that side of things, ultimately, it'd be wonderful if you don't need people like me and Martin, because you're all communicating and sharing ideas and contacts and everything. But I think it does, certainly to get it going, it needs that catalyst, which is just us. But yeah. Duncan, go ahead.
Duncan Willows, St Albans Church, Hindhead. Not a question, more really a comment. I think this process will work if those on the call that represent churches actively input to I don't know, to you guys, whether you own the spreadsheet or we own the spreadsheet and fill it in terms of who we've approached, why we approached them, what sort of, we're looking at underfloor heating at the moment, what sort of underfloor heating they provide. That database of knowledge is absolutely essential in this process. A number of years ago, this is prior to Martin joining, we did ask the diocese, we said, you must know what's going on, because for these large projects, we've actually got to have your permission to do it. But there was lots of ferrying around and we didn't get a lot of answers. I think we do now because we've got people like you guys on board, but the onus is on us to make sure that we share the information and the process we're going through. And it's not necessarily, as you guys know, a recommendation. It's about these people are appropriate for this particular process. Have a look at them. And it makes our job easier when we know we've got to get 3 quotes for our grants, etc. So that was my tuppence worth.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think we had a in terms of it's what's the most appropriate platform, and you're talking about IT really for sort of sharing all of that information. We've tried to get chat forums going, and it was a bit of a flop really, but I think just down with Portsmouth Diocese at the moment, and between all the dioceses in the southeast, we're looking at setting up a platform for us all being able to put that in, all that sort of information, and then you can do a search. So we're toying around with various ideas, but for my deputy diocesan secretary days, I'm really conscious about how well the Treasurers Forum seem to work. And we can easily create some sort of group or something if it's actually good. You guys are going to be chatting on it, but yeah, it would be better to have an accessible spreadsheet or database or something like that. Definitely.
Yeah, well, if you could just let us know whether you want to design that and we fill it in, or if not, you're going to receive lots of random information
I
which
know.
you have to put into a spreadsheet.
There are lots of things that we'll just have to work out as we go along. That might be a Pioneers newsletter, so we can actually say kind of, St. Albans has just got underfloor heating and they've used this company, and here are some nice pictures, and or shared database or Google group. But there's certainly, getting the information and sharing right will be really important.
The National Church have talked about having a map where you could go around and sort of click on a parish and sort of see, okay, they've done X, Y, Z. Problem is when will they do it? And will it actually include everybody, or is it just going to be a certain category? So I think, we can't really wait for that sort of stuff. We've just got to get on and do it ourselves.
There's other practical stuff we can do, things like sharing faculty information and stuff like that, which can speed up the process dramatically. Because there's no point in us all reinventing the wheel. So faculty stuff that we can tailor would be really useful.
I think that's right. It was Matthew Sleep at Frimley did a lot of work on permission for solar panels for his church hall, and I now refer people routinely to Matthew because he's got all the knowledge at his fingertips. So if a particular church does a particular successful project and is able to share that information, that's incredibly valuable.
Could I suggest that the church architect is often a good source of information for contractors? Our church architect has a number of churches under his belt, and so whenever we've needed a specialist contractor, he's normally had a few names that he can offer us.
The church architects are great partners. I used to be a parish manager before I did this job, and we used our architect to project manage a big roof project, which included solar and insulation. That's not always the case, but it can be if you've got a good relationship and that person is appropriate. So, yeah.
Yeah, the other thing, just touching on that a little bit, that we've been doing is we've been helping various parishes. This has actually started down in Chichester. I've been helping a parish to sort of design a quite in-depth sort of invitation to tender. And then we've learned a bit through that. We involved the inspecting architect on that, and then we've used a very, very similar format in Portsmouth. Again, got input from the inspecting architects and some recommendations for them. And these are the sort of things that, those specifications, if people are needing to get more in-depth consultancy, we're hoping to be able to help with that. It's always, has that specification really delivered what you want? And I just got a report in for my first invitation to tender today. So it's actually looking at, what can we learn from that whole cycle, and how we can then sort of start feeding that out to you and help you sort of, adapt the sort of specs for your particular needs.
I'm conscious the time is
Oh, yes,
up,
it is.
but if there's any burning question, I'll take one more, and otherwise, just drop me an email if anything comes to your mind later.
And complete the form, presumably.
And complete the form, thank you. Yeah. We have recorded the meeting. I won't distribute it to you because you've all been here, but I know there's some people who are waiting to. So there is a bigger group of people who'll be watching this. and we'll stay in touch if you complete the form, and the group will come together. Chris.
Martin, could you just confirm at some stage if you've received our form
Yeah.
from St Albans? Thank you.
I think I have.
Can I just ask, from a sort of formal point of view, do we need a PCC resolution to take this forward, or how does that work?
Well, that'll be in the memorandum of understanding, which we haven't written yet. But yes, it'll be an agreement between the PCC and the Net Zero team. But we'll make that clear later, Chris.
But does that need to be done by the 31st of October?
No, that doesn't need to be done by 31st. That'll be done before the end of the year. So that's just your inquiry to join the 31st of October.
It's the expression of interest.
That's helpful.
And then we can talk, and kind of, if a PCC resolution, which I think will be needed, it can be done sometime before the year ends.
Okay, that's fine.
And just in terms of the MOU, we'll try and keep it really light touch. It's not going to be a heavy document. It's just setting out the basics, more or less what Martin had in his presentation.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Martin.
Very encouraging.
Thank you, and I look forward to staying in touch. Bye bye for now.
Thank
you.
Great.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye bye.